dating and sales. If you want to find the right girlfriend or wife, and you happen to be a business owner or you work in sales, this video is going to be extremely interesting for you because we're going to analyze the differences and similarities between dating and sales. From my perspective, one of the most important similarities is qualification. A lot of people think that selling means trying to convince somebody to do something, to purchase a product or a service that isn't right for them, to get them to do it whether they want it or not. And a lot of people think that dating is kind of the same thing. They're trying to convince a woman to be with you against her will, or whether she likes you or not, whether you're compatible or not. And all of that is nonsense. Good sales is actually qualification first. Figuring out whether there's compatibility between you, the person who offers the product or a service, and the buyer. So what you ultimately want to do as a seller, as a person who's trying to sell yourself to the woman, not in a financial way, but selling your personality, communicating a value proposition, is figuring out whether there's enough compatibility to want to move things forward. Qualification ultimately means making provocative statements and asking questions. Now, a slight difference in dating as opposed to in sales is, in sales you qualify by solely asking questions. In dating, you qualify by making provocative statements. So for example, if I were to say, I was in Berlin 6 months ago, I would say this while I'd be on a date. I was in Berlin 6 months ago and there was a girl, she was dancing in a bar and her armpit hair was so long that I could have flossed with it. I really didn't like that. That is a provocative statement, and thereby I'm screening for a compatibility to see whether our value systems are aligned or not. Now, you wouldn't make a statement like that in sales, but you want to ask a lot of questions to figure out whether there's enough compatibility, and also to convey enough of your own status for the other person to even respect you enough to want to move things forward. The same is true in dating. Only that in dating you don't rock up on the first date with a checklist, but ultimately what you do is you make provocative statements that show a degree of carefreeness, that communicate to her that you're coming from such a level of abundance that you couldn't give a solitary whether this date goes well or not. She needs to feel wanted but not needed. Same as sales. The prospect needs to feel wanted but not needed. If you come across like you need that person, it's a weird and creepy vibe, and nobody wants that. You want to interact with somebody who obviously wants to feel wanted, but if that person feels like he's the only client ever, then it's absolutely creepy and weird, and also it implies that the product or the service couldn't possibly be that great, because if it was, you'd have a bigger pipeline. Which brings me to the next similarity. John Barrows, one of the most important B2B sales trainers when I used to work in Salesforce, he was one of the best guys back in the day. He would always say, a big fat pipe cures all. A big fat pipeline of opportunities cures everything. The same is true in dating. One of the number one reasons you are not as confident as you want to be is because you don't have enough high quality options. Maybe you get dates with women that are kind of alright, but not the ones you actually want. That's because you don't have enough abundance. And once you get yourself to that level of abundance, where you have more women who want to date you than you could possibly date to then choose the right person from, you'll naturally exude a sense of confidence and abundance that is extremely attractive. And the same thing is true in sales. You need to be coming from such a level of abundance that the other person realizes that you don't need them. You don't need them at all, because your marketing is so strong that it supplies you with so many leads. Your sales process is so strong that it disqualifies the wrong ones, but it lets enough of the right ones into the calls later on that you're really not worried about the outcome of any particular sales call or date for that matter.
Am I supposed to add to that or take over from there?
Take over.
All right. Well, look, I think the biggest lesson that I can contribute to your audience, because this is going to be posted on your channel, is that a lot of the guys, when you even look at their questions, they ask questions from a scarcity mindset. My ex is watching my stories. What should I do? As if that's the only lead in their pipeline. So the quote you used about having a big fat pipe solving all your problems, I think that's very applicable in both dating and in sales. And when you think about it, dating and sales is all just under the umbrella of communication. If you get good at communicating with people, you can sell. And if you get good at communicating with people, you can sell yourself to another person. And as you said, it's not selling yourself in the sense that you have to go and qualify yourself or prove your worth to a woman, but you have to be able to market the package that you are in the best way possible. And then once you have options, then you can choose the right one, because the chance of you finding the right woman on the first call is like the chance of you getting your best customer on your first sales call. Like the chance of it happening is very unlikely. You're going to go through a process of trial and error, and you get better with both. Both are skills that are acquirable, dating, sales. Both are things that take repetition, and both are things that require you to be a little bit desensitized to rejection and failure. So maybe we can talk about that. Like the fact that a lot of people, they think like, oh, sales isn't for me. I'm not a natural born salesperson because they just get the door slammed in their face once and they're like, no, I don't want to feel that anymore. Or the same when they go to a woman and she says no, or she rejects them and they're like, oh, I'm never doing that again. That was a horrible feeling. So what do you think about like, getting desensitized to the no?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is absolutely right. Most men have never gotten a sufficient amount of rejection, and that's why it still hurts. You and I have gotten rejected with women and in sales more times than you have ever jerked off.
Yeah.
So thinking that you can find a high quality relationship or that you can achieve your sales targets or build a great business without going through an unfathomable amount of rejection is ridiculous. Yeah. That is the truth. If you have to choose, what do you want more? Your little feelings, your little ego, or the result? But once you understand that statistically you're going to get X no's for X Y's, it doesn't hurt that much anymore. And now that is the first component. So rejection is always going to be part of the game. But then also, sales, just like dating, it's not just a numbers game. It is also very much a skill set, because you can do the wrong thing 1,000 times. Without the right approach, you're still going to suck. Maybe you want to speak on the skill set component for a second.
Yeah. So what you said is absolutely right. It's not a numbers game. It's a numbers times skills game. So it's a numbers and skills game. You got to have the numbers, because without the numbers, you're not going to get the skills. You need both, right? But one of the things that, when we talk about this kind of stuff, and when I talk about the getting desensitized to the no, you're absolutely right as well. We've probably collectively gotten rejected more times in dating and in sales than people have ever tried. And it's the same like Michael Jordan probably shot more basketballs and missed more basketballs than the competitors ever tried. So that's the point of the game. It's like you need to become desensitized to it, to the point where your own value is never in question. When you're in sales, when you get a no, it's just not a good fit. It's just not, maybe the person is not aware enough of their situation, or maybe the person just isn't the right fit for you. Or same with dating, maybe the woman that you're trying to pursue is just not the right woman for you. That never lowers your value. That never gets you feeling like I'm not good enough or something like that. No, once you've done it enough times, you just understand. Maybe the moment you went to go talk to her was just a moment she needed to use the bathroom, right? Maybe that's what I always think. Whenever if I approach a woman and she looks beautiful and I want to talk to her and she's just like, I would just think to myself at that moment, oh, she probably just needed to go bathroom.
Yeah, or she's a lesbian.
Or whatever, right? So you just kind of you don't take it so seriously. Another thought that comes to mind is that detaching yourself from the yes is always a good thing. So you're not attached to the outcome, you're attached to doing a good job and improving yourself. Same applies both in sales and in dating. You're not attached to the yes. When I go on sales calls, when I talk to people in sales, I'm never attached to the outcome. What I prefer to be attached to instead is to provide an accurate diagnosis that I'm going to really assess, is this person a good fit for me? Is this person someone I can really help? Is this someone that our company could really help? If yes, then I'm going to make that offer and then it's up to them. But I'm not attached to them saying yes, because the second you do that, the second you put your attachment to something outside of yourself, you set yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And another good frame to come from in sales is I want to help. I choose to truly help. If I put the focus on the other person and genuinely wanting to help, then I can help. Even in the sales call, even if the person doesn't decide to buy, then I can at least give them an accurate assessment, tell them where their strengths are, and that other person will get value from this. And the more I focus on providing value in that conversation, the higher the probability that they will map this experience to future experiences and they'll want to buy. And in dating, it's the same thing. The more I can focus on providing value through emotions in the moment, the higher the probability that she's going to want to stick around.
Yeah, and another thing is that when you provide those emotions, what you're essentially doing is that you're making her an offer. Similar like in sales. You make more offers, you get more sales. It's the same thing in dating. If you have an abundance of offers going out, you're not going to be attached to any singular one, and then you can choose from the best option for yourself. And you don't feel like, okay, if this girl doesn't like me, if this girl says no to me, you don't take it personally. Because that's the thing that I think a lot of guys struggle with these days. They have one girl and they put her on a pedestal. It's the equivalent of having one lead and putting them on a pedestal. And if that lead doesn't close, then their whole world is turned upside down, right? So you don't want to do that. You always want to be in a space where you have different options, and that you're coming from a place of, I'm bringing my value to the table and I'm searching for someone that can complement that.
100%. You commit to abundance. It's not enough to just say, I'm abundant one time, but you have to commit yourself to abundance on a daily basis. And it's a mindset. And you only ever make an offer. It's always up to the other person, to the buyer or to the lady to buy. Same with the kiss on the date. You make the kiss. You make the offer. And then she gets to decide whether she wants to take you up on it. Another big similarity between dating and sales is you sell emotionally. And dating is a very emotional process. Now, the difference is in sales, you close logically. And in dating, there rarely ever is a logical element. There's never I guess we should go home together. Here are the benefits and the features that you can expect when we go home together. It's probably not going to be like that. So it's a very emotional process. And the way, now obviously, in sales, it's more, especially if it's B2B, it's a lot more logical, but still there's emotions involved in it. Why do we want the solution? What's the impact this is going to have? What's going to happen if we don't do this? And in dating, it's the same thing. It's all about emotions. We always say, oh, women are so illogical. Human beings aren't logical. Yeah. It's just men are slightly more logical, but all decisions are made at an emotional base.
Yeah. And I think that leads us on to talking about beliefs, because when you come from a place of, because we've heard guys say this, right? Like, there's no single women in my city.
Or no good women in my city.
How many people live in your city, bro? 500,000. Okay, so you're telling me in 500,000 people, there's no single women in
no good women.
There's no good women in and around your age group in the whole city of 500,000 people or 1 million people. Come on, man. Like, who are you trying to kid? Like, it's not accurate information. You're basing it off of one or two. Yeah. You need to have, that's what we said about numbers. It's a combination of numbers and skills. If you have bad skills, you'll approach 30 in a row and you'll get rejected 30 times in a row. Or, for example, you'll have, like, it's like these guys in your comments that are like, dating apps don't work. What are you talking about? Dating apps don't work. My dating app works perfectly fine. So it's like, that's the same when it comes to sales. A lot of people will be like, Facebook ads don't work. They try it once, they get a bad experience, it doesn't work anymore for them from a marketing perspective, for example. Or if they try a specific, script, or they try a new strategy, you need data to be able to verify whether it works or not. It can't be off a singular instance that you're judging that something works or doesn't work. And so many people jump to beliefs based off of not enough data, or based off of what somebody else believes and said to them. So somebody else will tell you like, oh, all these girls, they don't really like guys like you, right? They're like tall, handsome, 6'5". I want a guy in finance. Give me, give me a guy in finance. You know, they hear that, and then that shapes unconsciously their worldview, and they look at it like, no, a girl would never want a guy like me. She wants a 6'5" guy in finance. Do you know how limited of that type of guy there is out there? Like, there isn't that many 6'5" guys in finance for those girls. And by the way, those girls as well, like, it's not a guys versus girls fault. It's not an argument of it's their fault or it's their fault, but it's one of those things where you just need to be more open to questioning your beliefs. And somebody else could come in, like yourself or like myself. We come in and say, that thing you just said, is that actually true? Like, is it actually true what you just said? And you need to be willing to say, oh, actually, no, I just have that belief because of this happened to me, and that's what made me think that. So why don't you pick it up on beliefs?
The beliefs you have, they shape your actions shape your results, and those results, they feed right back into your beliefs. And exactly what you were saying, most of you have picked up your beliefs unconsciously from your environment, from unqualified sources. Never listen to people who aren't qualified. And another thing, remember how we were talking about qualification earlier? Let me go into that a little bit more. Never let the wrong people into a sales call. Qualify people very, very strictly. Never make it exclusive with a woman who isn't right for you. You have to, for example, in sales, let's say standard selling methodology, budget, authority, needs, timeline. You want to make sure, plus personality fit perhaps, if it's a service. You want to make sure that the prospect fits all of those criteria. And if he doesn't, well, then he gets rejected. He doesn't even get the chance to further evaluate the product or the service, because you're coming from such an abundant place that you realize, if this person is right for me, I don't want to get a bad reputation. I want to get the right types of clients. I want to get the best clients that I can help, that I can get amazing results. But it's only possible if they hit certain criteria. And you got to have individual criteria. Same when it comes to the selection of the right girlfriend or wife. You have to write down your must-haves, your nice-to-haves, your deal breakers. And if you go on a first date and she happens to have one deal breaker but the rest is amazing, she's still gone, because it's called a deal breaker for a reason. If she's easily offended, she misinterprets what you say in a negative way, she likes the validation of too many men a little bit too much, she's a bit of a gold digger, whatever it happens to be. If it is a deal breaker, it's a deal breaker, and there only has to be one of them, because the deal has been broken by virtue of the existence of this one incompatibility. So just understand that qualifying is the most important skill set you might ever learn in your entire life. Qualifying is the most important thing you'll ever learn in your life. And disqualifying as well. It's more so disqualifying. 90% of the people in the world aren't even right for you to have as friends. 99 probably. 99% of the women, even if they wanted you, you probably shouldn't want them in your life as well, because you're not compatible regarding your values, your personality, physical attractiveness. There are so many things that have to be right. Not perfect, but right for you to have a long-term relationship, that you will have to learn to reject most people. So learn to qualify properly. What is it that I'm even looking for? But you can only qualify in terms of the right prospect or the right girlfriend or wife if you even know what you want. And most men don't even know what they want. You don't even know what you truly want because you haven't gotten enough experience. So you need to get experience and then disqualify radically. And then it's like a funnel. You have a lot of people here, and then as they move down the funnel, the qualification process, more and more and more drop out. And in the end, you'll have one woman, one girlfriend or wife. Now in sales, you're going to have more people that they end up selling to, naturally. But you definitely want to have a lot less here than here, because you've disqualified the ones who simply aren't compatible with what you have to offer.
Yeah, and I think it's very true what you said. Well, you're talking essentially about, the mindset aspect, right? So you have mindset, you have skill set, and you have actual actions, practices, and habits that you have. And I think to succeed in both sales and in dating, you need to have these three things on point. Are your habits on point? Are you doing the right things on a daily basis? Are you taking the right actions? Are you getting your photos taken for dating apps? Are you going and approaching women? Same with sales. Are you doing your lead generation activities? Are you doing your cold outreach? Are you doing your content production? If that's one of your lead generation strategies, for example? Are you doing your sales calls? Are you tracking your data? So those are the processes. Those are the things that will get you the result. But in order to do those effectively, you need to have the skill set. In order to do that effectively, you need to have the mindset. So it all feeds into each other. And as you said, it's like a funnel. You have the people that are interested. Then you have under the people that are interested in your product, you have people who are interested and qualified. Then you have, it goes down the funnel to the point where you have your ideal customer or your ideal partner. And I think that if you understand that logically, if that makes sense to you, then you can do really well in dating and you can do really well in sales. And when you join a program like yours or join a program like mine, when you get coached by someone like you or when you get coached by someone like me, these are transferable skills. Someone that comes into a dating program might not even realize that he's now acquired skills that he can use to further his business, to further his career, to further anything related to professional life as well as his personal life. And same for sales. If you're good at sales, you're also good at communicating in general. And if you're good at communicating in general, then you'll be good at finding a perfect girlfriend or life partner. What do you think about that?
Yeah, 100%. Because to become really, really good at sales, you have to be able to connect with people emotionally. Now, it's different because one of the differences is in sales, you don't have the attraction component. You're not trying to get the prospect attracted to you. Yeah. That romantic part isn't there. But you still have to learn to communicate at an emotional level, build rapport, find similarities. And not through like generic small talk, how's the weather, some nonsense, but to really figure out what it is they care about. And in dating, it's a little bit more talking than it is asking questions. Sales in the beginning, especially during the qualification phase, questions. Because people will like you if you ask them questions. They will feel understood, and you also build demand throughout that process, and you build authority throughout that process. Whereas in dating, you can't rely on questions that much. That is a big difference. Yeah. A lot of guys, they end up asking too many questions because they don't know storytelling. They don't know how to communicate maybe in an illogical way that's just fun and playful and spikes emotions. And therefore, just start asking questions and they place the burden of the conversation on her.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think in sales, there's a lot of active listening and asking the right questions. So in general, if you're talking to somebody for the first time and it's a sales interaction, you want to be talking for about 30% of the time and listening for 70% of the time, because you're not going to know the problems, the challenges, what this person's tried already if you're just talking all the time. You're not going to learn anything about them. But you've probably been, if you're in sales or if you have your own business, you've probably been in a conversation with somebody before where you just ask a couple of open-ended questions and let the person talk the whole time, and then you dig into the answers that they give, and then they walk away thinking like, geez, you know what, I didn't learn that much about Bob, but he's a really awesome guy. Like, it's just because you let them talk, and people love to tell their side of the story. People love to tell their story. But in dating, it's completely, well, it's opposite of that, in the sense that when you meet a woman for the first time, you don't put the burden of responsibility of the conversation onto her, because she's going to be like, what, why is this guy talking to me? Like, what am I supposed to say? Like, she'll be kind of like, what, like, and she'll just walk away.
Who are you?
Yeah, who are you? And walk away. So that's a major difference. And you mentioned the attraction part as well. I would also argue though that in sales, maybe it's not a physical attraction that makes you, but there's just some people you're going to like more. You'll just like them. You just want to be in a conversation with them. It's not necessarily that you want to sleep with them or you want to be married them.
What makes somebody likable in a sales process?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think this is also a video. This is something I did a video on myself the other day, where I talked about it's not necessarily that we buy from the people that we like, but we buy from the people that we trust that will get us a result. And then that makes them likable. But the thing that makes someone likable, to be honest, it's like when we're born, why do we like our parents? Because of impressions, because of exposure. We have the most exposure to them. We open our eyes, there they are. And then we just keep seeing them over and over again. That's why we like our parents. Yeah. And that's why we like anything. That's why McDonald's and Pepsi and Coca-Cola put millions and billions into advertising to put these signs in front of you all the time. They don't need the advertising. Everyone knows what McDonald's is, but it's to keep themselves in front of you. So I think it's one of those things where even if you're talking about a from a dating perspective, if you want to talk about having a good Instagram profile and why it's so effective and why it's so underrated for guys, because let's face it, when you talk to a girl, these days in 2024, you go for the Instagram close more often than the WhatsApp or phone number close, because that way she can see what kind of guy you are and she can keep up with your life. And then when she's watching your stories on a daily basis, it's like she's bought into the reality show of you. She's bought into the show, and then when she's watching your stories, she's growing, she's getting the impressions and she's getting the exposure of you already, and you get to decide what side of yourself you want to show. So I think we can take this conversation to that part about how Instagram is such an underrated dating tool, but also, if you're trying to sell on the behalf of, because I see a lot of people who follow me, real estate agents and people who, they sell independent, like they work under a company umbrella, but it's on them. The onus is on them to sell their real estate, their properties or whatever. So they should have somewhat of an Instagram presence. I think it's almost like, if you want to operate in the world today, whether it's in business, sales, or dating, having an optimized Instagram profile is the way to go. What do you think about that?
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Like, for example, we don't even do any selling, really. We don't sell a lot. There's no hard sale in the coaching program that we offer, because the people, you watch these videos. At the beginning, you probably didn't even know us that well. You're like, who is that ginger talking? Then you watch maybe a couple of Instagram reels, a couple of TikTok videos, a couple of Facebook videos. Then you watch a YouTube video. Oh, it's starting to make sense. You're like, okay, cool. I kind of like him. And then eventually you make the decision. You're like, okay, cool. I'm interested. I want to find out more about that. And then a member from my team is going to get in touch with you. We'll talk to you to figure out whether you're the right fit. And if not, then you won't even be let into the free initial consultation. If you're in the free initial consultation, we'll map out a plan based on your specific situation. We'll present it to you. We'll talk about all the uncertainties that you might have and all the questions you have, and then you make the decision. There's not like, you gotta buy this. No. Why? Because you've gotten exactly what you're saying. So many impressions, either via YouTube or via Instagram, is probably where we have the biggest brand these days, that you realize, oh, I trust this guy. Then it's just about working out the specifics of your individual situation so we can map that out and see, okay, this is how we're going to be able to coach you to find the right girlfriend, to find the right wife, because your situation is different to everybody else. Now, the problems are always the same, right? You're special with the gifts you have to share. Your situation is going to be a bit unique, but the problems you have, we've seen this hundreds and hundreds of times. We've been able to solve this, right? So once you do a great job, now we dip into marketing, we leave sales right now and we dip into marketing, right? But what if you do such a great job of offering value up front?
The sales becomes easy.
The sale becomes easy because she already knows. She realizes, oh, this was a great experience all along. You realize, oh, this was a fantastic experience all along.
I mean, if you compare it to having a profile with a blank ass profile picture, no post.
With 27 followers.
Yeah, I think it's it's going to make your job, it's still possible to close the sale.
100%. If you're a great salesperson, absolutely.
But it's going to make your job a lot harder.
Yes, 100%. So that mere exposure effect that he was talking about with your parents, you trust that brand, the person the most that you've been exposed to the most. Why do I trust him so much? Because we've known each other forever, right?
A lot of impressions.
A lot of impressions. The most impressions, right? That's why it is so important in dating, since we're talking about it, to have a great Instagram. Instagram will 3 to 10x your results in dating. That's a fact. If you want to find the right girlfriend, like partner, or wife, it'll 3 to 10x your results.
But you have to be able to do it right. I mean, like,
yes.
When you see the clients that come into the program and they think that their Instagram is right, and we look at it and it's just like,
yeah, like, what are you doing, you bumbleclot? Right? Oh, every single time. But it's called a blind spot. It's not your fault, by the way. It's called a blind spot for a reason. You cannot see it. It's a scotoma. It's something that you're not aware of. It's an unconscious incompetence. Yeah. And theoretically, you don't have to have an Instagram, but it makes it 3 to 10x. We've measured this easier. Minimum 3x, because she'll see you in your stories. She'll see so many great things about you that she otherwise would have never been able to find out about. So, that being said, though, once you are actually on the date, on the sales call, so to speak, if you're an excellent communicator, and that's ultimately what sales is, you'll be able to close any deal.
Yeah.
Now, on dates, that isn't necessarily the case, and in sales calls, it isn't the deal. It isn't 100% true either. But if you have the mindset, so one, it is true that the better your communication skills, the higher the probability that you're going to be able to close the deal, move things forward with this lady. It's always based on compatibility, though. But having the mindset that you are going to be able to close that person, that this date is going to go amazingly well if she chooses to, if they choose to, if you have that mindset that it's a done deal, the probability that it will is going to go higher. What do you always say about hypothesis becomes destiny?
No, I say that your hypothesis affects your outcome.
Yes.
Because if you start believing something, it's gonna become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. If you roll up in there, you're like, oh, I'm a little bit unsure, and you project that lack of certainty, they won't trust you. One of the biggest gifts you could make another person, a lady or the prospect, is certainty. Now, that certainty has to be grounded in competence. Like, the difference between a scammer and a person who sells a product and a service that's really ethical and that has a lot of value is the competence. Is the product worth it? Does the person, the coach in our case, for example, actually have an expertise? Now, in our case, I've worked with men from 35 countries, hundreds of them. Check out the client testimonials. We've got evidence. Undeniable stack of proof that what we do works. That's why there's a competence. But then on top of that, I've seen so many coaches and other people who don't have the certainty they need, even though they're technically great at what they do, who don't bring the certainty. Same is true with you and women. Even though you, the product, who you are, is really excellent, you're doing well in your business, you're doing well in your career, whatever it happens to be, you're a genuinely kind person, you're going to treat her really well, you're going to be there for her, you have good values, you got your shit together, you don't bring enough certainty to the date for her to truly trust you. If you don't bring enough certainty to the date, there's no way in hell she'll trust you to lead a family at some point down the line. Certainty is one of the most important things you can ever develop.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big things that you help guys develop throughout the process of the coaching program. And, I'm going to go a little bit off cuff here for a second because we've been talking a lot about sales. We've been talking a lot about dating. Now I want to tell you guys a little bit of a personal story to kind of close off my section of this video. I'm sure you're going to want to add some more before we close off. There was a guy who there's been multiple guys like this, but the one comes to mind specifically who came to Dublin to meet us to do a boot camp. And this guy, he never did an approach before. He was a successful business owner. He was a little bit in his early 40s, late 30s, early 40s, I believe. And what I said to David at the time after his boot camp was, David, there is no one that would have given him the experience that we just gave him. So picture this. He's never talked to a woman on the street before, gone up to talk to her, out of the blue, a stranger. And me and him are driving in the BMW with the guy in the back, and we pull up to a bus stop and we say, okay, go and approach that woman. And with full confidence, not even a second of hesitation, he goes over, you have the video footage of it.
Yeah.
He goes over and starts a charming conversation. We're watching, she's looking up, giving him these eyes and smiling. It was like an amazing thing to watch.
And we were sitting there, we were like, whoa, this was amazing.
And then when, I said to David, David, when you talk about other dating coaches or whatever, there is no competition. I got asked today on a sales call, why should we choose you? Why you? Why not? Why don't we go with someone with 30 years experience or something? And I thought the same thing. That's such a stupid question. I didn't say that, but in my head I was thinking it's such an obvious choice if you knew what I know. If you knew what I know, this is it's such a non-question, because having 30 years experience doesn't necessarily mean anything. You could have been doing the wrong thing for 30 years. Yeah, exactly. It still counts as experience. So it's why would you even put yourself in that? I think it's always good, like Bruce Lee said, always show up as a beginner mindset. Every day is a new day. Every moment you're a new person. So I think that the best thing to close this off from my side is I'll just say the experience that we gave that guy. He told me, brother, I consider you a brother, and you've literally changed this stranger's life. Is there anything I can do for you? I said, if you want to do something for me, just keep approaching, keep going, don't stop. Because, by the way, a lot of guys also think, don't you think it's weird to go and talk to a stranger out of the blue? How do you think your ancestors reproduced? Do you think they went on Tinder?
What do you think humanity has done for 300,000 years?
They went on Tinder or Bumble? No, that stuff is a new invention. Before that, we had to actually go and talk to someone that we want. Cold approach was just called
talking.
Yeah,
exactly.
So it's like,
What a strange concept.
so it's like what I'm trying to say here, like to summarize that whole story, is that, you know, a lot of guys need that guidance from someone who's done it before, because once they get a little push in the right direction, then it's like it's a whole new person, and we've seen that again and again and again. And so I'd like to ask, what do you think about that? I mean, in the sense that, you know, how we changed that guy's life and how you continue to change people's lives in that regard, and how I do the same thing when it comes to a sales perspective. Maybe you want to talk about that initial, like, aha moment that people have once they just, you know, they go, it's like they, what is it? They go over the cliff, or they take the leap. They take the leap of faith.
They take the leap of faith.
Yeah.
Once they do that, it was such an awesome experience. And we were sitting in the car. We were so excited. We're like, woo! Because we really get invested into these people. Yeah. Because we've gone through our own journeys. I was married to a woman who wasn't right for me. Yeah. Like, we both had to learn this. Yeah. And not being able to do this as opposed to being able to do this, your life quality changes so dramatically, and they take that with them forever. Yeah. It's not just the fact that you have an amazing woman by your side. Your engagement with the world changes at a fundamental level if you realize you can create connections out of nothingness. Because most men BS themselves. Yeah. They think they're good at fighting. They think they're good at talking to women. You know the fighting thing. Most men think they're good at fighting. You put a pair of boxing gloves on them and you're like, oh, this was easy. This was nothing, right? Yeah. And the same is true here. It is so fundamentally, and you think you can do it? No, you can't. If you're not approaching, you can't. Yeah. You don't have the skill set yet. You can learn it, but you got to dedicate yourself to overcoming your approach anxiety, as well as actually learning the skills, because it's not just doing it. There's a skill set component to it. How do I build a hook point? How do I do storytelling? How do I do a cold read? How do I communicate in a way that it's emotionally relevant to her? That guy's life was changed forever, and he's just one out of countless people. Now, obviously, most of the stuff we do is online, but every now and then we do these in-person events to go really, really deep with people. It is so truly transformative because you engage with the world and you do what all of your ancestors have done for hundreds of thousands of years. You're meant to do this as a man. How can you call yourself a man if you can't even do that?
Yeah. And I think that you're right. Like, I mean, it's mostly an online, you know, it's an online coaching structure. But the ones that are serious enough that want to be here with us, you can be here with us. Yeah. You can literally be with us, having the same experience as him, if you set that, okay, this is what I want to do. Because you'll find a way. Because when you want to do something, you'll find a way to do it.
I had a client fly over, he's in medicine. Last week we were in London. We did a 6-day thing. He flew all the way from Australia to London to spend a week with us. His mind was blown. He sent us a text, you changed my life. It was absolutely life-changing.
And this is the thing. The difference between, to go back to the question, what they asked me today on the call is like, why should we choose you? Why you? Well, the level of seriousness that I'll bring to this job, nobody else will bring it. Nobody else is going to bring it. Same for you in dating. This is why, because we take this so seriously. Yeah. What time is it right now? Let me check the time right now. We're out here recording value for these people right now. It's 1:37 a.m. It's who else is doing this?
Exactly.
Who else is doing this? There's nobody. And then in 8 hours, 7 hours, we wake up, get to work, do it all again. And the level of seriousness, the level of investment emotionally, as well as time, as well as everything that you put into your clients, that I put into mine, it's like, this is something that we learn from each other, and we've just it's just the right way to do things. It's just the right way. When somebody puts their trust in you, like that guy put his trust in us, how could we not go above and beyond to deliver for him? So
he was crying. There was a moment he was crying. He had tears in his eyes and he was so happy.
Yeah.
This was end of 30s, early 40s.
Imagine reaching your 40s and you never went up to a woman and talked to her before.
Exactly.
That is crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, I think, like, from my side, just to close it off, it's like the difference between, you know, a scam and something that's legit is, one, that it actually is proven to work and got results. And second, that the person behind it is ethical, that the person behind it is not selling you something that they don't believe in. If you talk about sales, the easiest strategy is just to sell something that you truly believe in. Because if you truly believe in it, it's going to be an easy sell. Same with dating. It's like, if you truly believe that when you come to the table, you know your worth. Because some of the questions that guys ask, like, sorry to say this, but it's just, some of the guys that ask, I'm on a date, I've been waiting here for 30 minutes, should I leave? What the like, sorry for my language, but I don't know if you can bleep that out. But the point I'm making is like, bro, You need someone like me or like you in his year to say, bro, have some self-respect. Have some self-worth. Have a little bit of value for yourself. You're sitting here for 30 minutes. There's probably a pretty girl in your vicinity, in your...
There's probably another one that you haven't even seen.
And you could just go talk to her instead.
But instead you're waiting. Maybe she'll show up.
Instead you're
Maybe
asking
she'll
him
come.
You're asking him a question on his question box on his Instagram story.
While you're waiting for her instead of approaching her.
So
what are you doing?
It's just a thing, man. Like, you need to shift that belief, and then you will get the result. And your desire to fix it. If you've been watching this far, if you're literally watching this far of this video, then you probably want the same experience. So how can they go about doing that, David?
Click the link underneath this video. Application form. 30 seconds, fill it in. A member of my team is going to get in touch to see whether you're the right fit. Then there'll be a free initial consultation. Then we'll figure out if and how this makes sense for you. This is a truly life-changing program, something we can talk about. As much as you care about sales and transforming businesses, we care about transforming your dating and your relationship life so you can have an amazing woman to change your life, and not for her to change your life, but for you to have an amazing life together and build a family with. That's going to be amazing.
That's it. Wish you all the best.
Boom.